All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we'll talk a little bit about one player the Niners might be able to add that may be able to significantly impact the season that lies ahead. We'll discuss that coming up next. And Howie Roseman makes a mistake? What? That right there is news, so we'll get to it in just a second. But we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out there in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. And this video is also brought to you by our friends at Mancini's. Quick shout out, Mancini's Sleep World. Their huge Memorial Day sale is live now through June the 9th. You can save up to $1,200 on select adjustable mattress sets. Plus, they're throwing an extra 10% off if you're a fan of the Krug Show. Best price guarantee, 365 night comfort guarantee, free next day delivery. You're going to love Mancini's. I love my Mancini's bed. You're going to love yours. If you've been thinking about upgrading your bed, now's the perfect time. Just make sure you jump on it before June the 9th. Make sure you use the code KRUG10 at checkout, KRUEG 10 at checkout, at any of Mancini's locations or online at sleepworld.com to save an additional 10%. Don't forget to use KRUG10, KRUEG 10, at checkout to save that extra 10% at Mancini's Sleep World. And thanks to Mancini's for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, let's talk some Niners. Could the 49ers actually be, add a significant player and maybe even benefit from the great Howie Roseman, maybe with a rare personnel blunder? Could it happen? It might happen. First of all, it's amazing when you think about the Niners and the Eagles and the Niners and the crossover. Right now on the Niner roster, the Niners are, they no longer have Javon Hargrave, but they took him away from the Eagles. They signed Andre Dillard, who was a one-time Eagle. They've got Teron Jackson on the roster. He's a one-time Eagle. The Eagles' fascination with ex-Niners is even greater. George Odom, Danny Gray, Terrace Marshall, Matt Pryor, Cam Latu, and Tariq Castro-Fields are the 6 ex-49er players that are currently on the Eagles' off-season roster. But kind of an interesting story brewing in Philadelphia around Bryce Huff. And the Eagles, it's funny how all these things come full circle, and the Eagles and the Niners have these odd connections. Brock Purdy gets a brand new contract extension this week for $265 million. Almost had his career ended in Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game a few years ago by Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick was eventually dealt to the New York Jets for Bryce Huff, who came from the Jets and went to the Eagles. And it's amazing because Bryce Huff was a great Jet, and has been lousy with the Eagles. And now there's talk that the Eagles may wind up cutting Bryce Huff. And you think of Howie Roseman, you think, man, Howie Roseman's had some of the most amazing drafts the last few years. But if you go, every one of these guys has mistakes that they'd love to everybody to forget. Howie Roseman is like the rest. He drafted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf. He took Jalen Reagor one pick in front of the Vikings, who took Justin Jefferson with the next pick. So it's not like Howie Roseman is the greatest GM of all time. He makes mistakes. Everybody's human. When it comes to evaluating personnel, guys make mistakes. Howie Roseman traded for Jahan Dotson. And what's Jahan Dotson done for the Philadelphia Eagles? Not much. So one of the moves that Howie would love to have back was, signing Bryce Huff to a contract, which was really not a wise contract. Bryce Huff, they really whiffed on Bryce Huff. I mean, Bryce Huff had 10 sacks for the Jets. He gets traded from the Jets to the Eagles, and he logs 2.5 sacks for the Eagles. And now look at this offseason. The Eagles added Josh Uche, outside rusher, Azeez Ojulari, outside rusher. That was in March before the draft. And then in the draft, they drafted Antoine Powell-Ryland out of Vatech, another edge rusher. And there's a lot of talk coming out of Philadelphia that they're going to wind up cutting Bryce Huff. And if they do, cutting Bryce Huff would cost the Eagles $29.3 million in dead cap. but it could open up reps for, younger players who potentially, could be better than Bryce Huff. So obviously Howie Roseman is going to try to find a trade partner for Bryce Huff. But if he can't find a trade partner, he may be forced to cut him. And if he's forced to cut him, I mean, Huff signed a 3-year, $51 million contract with the Eagles last offseason to replace Hassan Reddick. And what did he do? 12 total tackles, 4 quarterback hits, 2.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. He played 12 games. He did miss time due to a torn ligament in the wrist. But he was, it hurts for the Eagles because Huff was coming off of a 10-sack season under Robert Saleh with the Jets in 2023. He had 4 seasons with the Jets and he had 17.5 sacks. So, now it looks like there's Ojulari, there's Ushi, there's Powell Ryland, and it looks like it could, be time for the Eagles to cut bait on Bryce Huff. It's going to be really interesting to see if the 49ers step up and try to trade for Bryce Huff or if they try to force the Eagles to cut Bryce Huff. But either way, I could see the 49ers trying to add Bryce Huff to their mix. If you could get the kind of player that Huff was with the Jets a couple years ago when he played for Robert Saleh and had double-digit sacks, that really could ease the burden on Mikael Williams to have to be this ready-made sack master opposite Nick Bosa, and it would allow you also to play more games up front and to use Williams across the formation, use him as a defensive tackle at times, rush him from an inside rush position, stunt him in or out, limit his snaps a little bit. This guy played in a very limited snap rotation. He's probably not ready to step in and play the full complement of snaps as a 3-down defensive end. But if you could add a Bryce Huff and you could get him for nothing because the Eagles cut him loose, or if you could trade for him for a 2026 draft choice, and he could rekindle his career, with Robert Saleh and be, the same player he was for Saleh just 2 short years ago, that might be a very, very attractive piece to the puzzle for the 49ers. So the Eagles, have positioned themselves. If you look at their depth chart, they understand that Bryce Huff didn't give them a whole lot last year. They have Nolan Smith in front of them, but they signed Josh Ushi. They brought in Patrick Johnson. They've got Jalix Hunt. They brought in Azeez Ojulari. They drafted Antoine Powell Ryland. And they're fortified there, and it looks like they could very well say goodbye to Bryce Huff. If they do, you may see a Bryce Huff, Robert Saleh reuniting, reunion in San Francisco, and that would probably be a very, very good thing for the 49ers pass rush. So problems in Philly could result in Bryce Huff becoming a Niner. It's not a lock, but it absolutely could happen, and it's something to watch for in the weeks ahead. All right. Thanks to Pig in a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. Thanks to Mancini's Sleep World for sponsoring this video. The links are in the description for all of our sponsors. Hit like and subscribe on your way out the door. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.